All right, let's dive into a story that is just wild. We're going to look at what happens when a community's leadership completely implodes. This is the case of a homeowners association that basically descended into chaos because it literally couldn't keep anyone on its board of directors.
I mean, think about it, right? HOAs are supposed to be self-governing. But what happens when that system just breaks, when there's no one at the wheel? Well, this case out of Arizona gives us a pretty dramatic, real-world look at exactly that. So where does this whole mess even start? Well, like a lot of these stories, it all kicks off with a lawsuit. A single homeowner decides to take his HOA to court, and in the process, he ends up pulling the thread that unravels a whole year's worth of drama in this tiny 40-home community.
Okay, so check this out. This is the actual petition, filed on April 10th, 2017. You've got the homeowner, Jason West, versus the Desert Sage Two Homeowners Association. And honestly, on the surface, his complaint seems pretty reasonable. What was he so upset about? It really boiled down to one thing. Mr. West claimed the HOA was breaking its own rules by not filling empty seats on the board of directors, leaving the whole community without any real leadership. And he wasn't just making this up, right? He pointed to a specific rule, Bylaw 3.6, which says vacancies shall be filled by a majority vote of the remaining directors. I mean, the words shall be filled, that sounds pretty cut and dry, doesn't it? So why wasn't the board doing it?
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Just appoint someone. How hard can that be? Well, this is where the story gets really complicated, and we see how this community got stuck in this crazy loop of resignations and finger-pointing. Okay, to really get what's going on here, we've got to rewind the tape and look at the year before the lawsuit. It was just total instability, a constant revolving door of board members coming and going. I mean, just look at this timeline. It is a whirlwind. March 2016, a new board gets elected. Great. By June, just 3 months later, they're all gone. In August, another new board gets elected, and guess who's president? Our guy, Jason West. They even expand the board to 5 people. But then, by February, West himself is out. 2 months after that, 2 more quit. They're left with one single person on a 5-person board. It was pure chaos. So you start digging through the court testimony, and a pattern starts to emerge. A common thread explaining why everyone was running for the hills. And one name keeps popping up over and over, the petitioner, Jason West. For example, here's the resignation letter from Christina Van Soest. She's pretty diplomatic, saying the board's direction wasn't in the community's best interest. But later testimony revealed she was deeply uncomfortable with Mr. West's methods, like digging into the backgrounds of other members. And then, just 2 months later, you get this one from Elizabeth Mayhew. And wow, this one is intense. In court, testimony confirmed that the him she's talking about here was, you guessed it, Mr. West. She cited his verbal assaults and personal attacks. And now, get ready for the twist. This quote, this is from the petitioner's own resignation letter. This is Jason West explaining why he's quitting the board just weeks before he'd turn around and sue that same HOA for not having enough people on it. So the board is a total wreck. Only one person is left. The only logical thing to do is call a big meeting and elect a whole new board. But at that very same meeting, Mr. West introduces a bylaw amendment that's about to change the entire game, and not in a good way. So here we are, the big annual meeting on May 15th. Everyone's showing up, hoping this is it, the moment they finally restore some order. They've got 2 things to vote on, a slate of new board members and this new rule that Mr. West has proposed. Now, you have got to pay close attention to the wording here. This new bylaw creates a 1-year ban from serving on the board for anyone who resigns or gets removed. Now, think about that crazy timeline we just saw. How many people had resigned in the last year? This rule seemed tailor-made for them. And what happens next is just unbelievable. It goes down in 3 quick steps. 1, they do it. They actually elect 4 new board members. A fresh start, right? 2, they vote on Mr. West's poison pill bylaw, and it passes. And then 3, the very instant that bylaw passes, it immediately kicks out 3 of the 4 people they just elected because they had all resigned in the past year. And just like that, poof, in the very meeting that was supposed to fix everything, the community was right back at square one. The board was vacant. Again. So all of this crazy backstory brings us right back to the courtroom and to Mr. West's lawsuit.
The judge has now heard this entire chaotic story. So, what's the verdict? Well, the judge's logic was actually pretty simple. The bylaws might say the board has to fill the seats, but they don't give the board the power to force people to serve against their will. It's not a military draft. The last person left on the board had tried to find volunteers, but nobody who was eligible actually wanted the job. And then the judge delivered the final blow. The reason nobody wanted to serve? The court put it plainly, saying it was in part due to petitioner's obstructionist tactics. The very person suing the HOA for having an empty board was a key reason the board was empty to begin with. And with that, the case was closed. The petition was denied. Here's the final order, all signed and sealed, bringing this whole saga to an end. So what do we take away from all this? It really leaves you with a huge question, doesn't it? In any community that governs itself, where do you draw the line? When does a passionate homeowner, a watchdog who's just trying to hold people accountable, cross over and become the very reason that nothing can get done at all?